London, 1872. There you are, walking down a narrow alleyway where the fog curls low and the gas lamps burn weak against the smoke. Your boots splash through gutters thick with filth, the smell of gin and soot clinging to the air. A woman coughs behind you, her shawl pulled tight as she waits for the next man to pass. Inside the lodging house, voices stir, some bargaining, some weeping, some praying for morning. Out here, every breath feels like a debt, and you know that survival will demand more than you can afford to give. If these echoes of hunger and shadows grip you, subscribe and let me know which other forgotten nights you'd want pulled back into the light. We're stepping back into the time of Victorian prostitutes, when women were driven into the streets by poverty and trapped by the hypocrisies of an empire that scorned them as it consumed them. Tonight, as you lie in safety, be grateful you're not counting coins in the dark, waiting for a knock that could bring bread or bring death. The first thing that reaches you is the damp. It clings to your clothes, seeps into your bones, and makes even the air feel like a burden. Your room is barely a room at all, 4 cracked walls leaning in on each other, with a window that admits more soot than light. The mattress beneath you is little more than straw clumped inside a sack, damp with last night's rain that found its way through the roof. You pull your shawl tighter around your shoulders, but it carries no warmth, only the faint smell of smoke and mildew that never leaves the cloth. The street below stirs with life before the sun fully rises. You hear the clatter of wooden wheels, the groan of a cart piled high with coal, and the impatient whinny of horses pressed too hard through narrow lanes. Then comes the shouting hawkers crying their wares, boys calling the morning papers, and the sharper voices of men already drunk, their words cutting through the fog. The city has no patience for silence. Even in the early hours, it hums with need. You rise slowly, your stomach heavy with emptiness. The last crust of bread was eaten yesterday, washed down with weak tea that tasted more of tin than leaves. Hunger tightens your chest until it feels as though your ribs press too close together. In the corner of the room, a chipped basin of water reflects a face you barely recognize, pale, hollow-eyed, marked by the wear of nights that stretch too long. You splash it over your cheeks, but it only makes you shiver. When you step outside, the fog is waiting. It rolls thick between the buildings, swallowing whole the edges of the street. Lamps glow faintly, their circles of light trembling against the gloom. You hear footsteps before you see the figures who pass, a woman clutching her basket, a child dragging behind her with bare feet, a man in a fine coat striding quickly, his gaze never lowering to the ground where you walk. The air stinks of smoke and dung, layered with the faint sweetness of gin shops already open. A lodging house nearby exhales its own kind of noise. Through the open door drifts the sound of women waking, coughing that rattles through their lungs, the murmur of debts being counted, the shuffle of feet across warped floorboards. They emerge one by one, shawls pulled tight, some with painted lips already smudged, others with their hair uncombed. You know their names, though they change often. New ones arrive when old ones vanish, swallowed by sickness or silence. You follow the street toward the market, the cobblestones slick beneath your boots. Men's eyes flicker toward you, some appraising, others dismissive. It is a glance you know too well the measure of what you are worth, or whether you are worth noticing at all. The weight of their gaze presses heavier than the fog. Hunger pushes you forward, but you feel the city watching, calculating, waiting to decide what it will take from you next. As the church bells strike the hour, their sound drifts hollow through the mist. They do not ring for you. They ring for a city that moves on regardless, a city that will never notice the face of one more woman in its streets. And so you step deeper into the fog, your breath sharp, your body weary, and the day unfolding like a debt that can never be repaid. The air inside the lodging house is thicker than the fog outside. You push open the crooked door, and the smell meets you, first damp straw, unwashed bodies, and the sour trace of gin lingering from the night before. The walls sweat with moisture, plaster cracked and peeling, and the floor groans under the weight of too many feet. The space is crowded, every corner claimed, yet the silence between coughs and murmurs feels vast enough to swallow you whole. Women lie on narrow beds, their bodies curled into themselves, shawls pulled tight for warmth. Some stir at the sound of the door, eyes blinking in the weak light that seeps through the filthy window panes. One reaches for her shoes, the soles worn through, while another clutches a baby pressed close to her chest, the child's thin whimpers swallowed by the noise of the street beyond. Their faces carry the same story, hunger etched into hollow cheeks, exhaustion sunk into shadows beneath their eyes. You find a place along the wall, where the damp bricks press cold against your back. The straw mattress you claimed last night is little more than flattened husks, damp with someone else's sweat, but you lower yourself onto it anyway. There is no comfort here, only rest stolen in small, uneasy pieces. Beside you, two women whisper to each other, their voices low but sharp, words circling debts, clients, and rumors of police patrols growing harsher with each week. The keeper of the house appears, her presence cutting through the room like a blade. She moves with the certainty of someone who controls what little comfort is left. Her eyes sweep the women, counting heads, measuring coins owed. She speaks few words, but her meaning is clear enough. Pay or leave. The women nod, some reaching into their skirts for a few grimy coins, others staring down at their hands, empty, waiting for the night to come again. A cough erupts from the far corner, wet, violent, unrelenting. The sound drags every ear in the room toward it. A thin figure hunches over, hand pressed to her mouth, and when she pulls it away, a faint streak of red shines on her palm. She wipes it on her dress and lowers her head, but the silence that follows is heavier than before. You know what it means, and so do the others. The sickness takes quickly here, moving from bed to bed like a shadow, and once it finds you, there is little to do but wait. The day wears on in half-light, the room dim even at midday. Some women sleep, others fuss with their hair or touch up rouge with trembling hands, preparing for the night. The sound of laughter drifts up from the street, a jarring reminder of the world beyond these walls, a world that does not see this room, or chooses not to. Inside, every breath feels borrowed, every coin hard-won and quick to vanish. When the keeper slams the door shut behind her, the room sinks back into its restless hum. You close your eyes for a moment, listening to the coughs, the whispers, the slow rhythm of despair. The lodging house does not promise shelter, it only reminds you that the city has room for your body, but never for your soul. The fog outside has thickened, swallowing the outlines of the buildings and softening every sound until it feels like you are moving through a dream. The gas lamps glow like dying stars, their halos smeared across the mist. Each step you take on the cobblestones echoes in the stillness, sharp and hollow, bouncing off the damp walls that lean in close. The city feels alive, not with warmth but with hunger, yours, and that of everyone else who walks these streets with empty pockets. Your stomach twists as you pass the bakery. The smell of bread, fresh and golden, leaks through the cracks in the shutters. For a moment you stop, breathing it in, closing your eyes as though scent alone could fill you. But the door opens, and the baker's boy stares, his face pinched with contempt. He doesn't speak, just pulls the shutters tighter, shutting you out as if your very gaze could steal the loaves. Hunger drives you on, but the ache grows heavier with each step. The streets are not empty. They never are. Men move quickly, collars up, hats pulled low, eyes darting only when they pass a shadow they might want to buy. Other women stand against the walls, shawls wrapped, faces painted with a rough hand in the reflection of puddles. Their voices rise and fall in the fog, calling softly, bargaining for survival in whispers. You know their faces, though the names change too often to remember. A nod here, a glance there, and you are part of the same silent company, the city's forgotten daughters. From the corner comes the rattle of tin cups. A beggar crouches low, his hand swollen, his voice cracked with pleading. He rattles the cup when footsteps pass, and some drop coins without looking down. You wish you had something to give, but all you have is the echo of your own need. The sight of him pulls at you, reminding you of how thin the line is between where he sits and where you stand. As the fog thickens, the world shrinks. Lamps burn but reveal little, casting long shadows that flicker with each shift of the mist. A carriage rolls by, wheels splashing filthy water from the gutters. Inside, laughter rises, muffled by glass, rich voices warmed by brandy and silk. You walk past, your shawl tight around your shoulders, the sound of their comfort clanging against the emptiness in your chest. The city divides itself so clearly. Some live in golden light, others in the shadows just beyond it. A group of boys runs past, their bare feet slapping against the stones, their laughter high and wild. One glances back at you, sneering, spitting into the gutter before vanishing into the fog. Even they have learned the lesson the city teaches. Your worth is something to mock, not to defend. You carry the weight of that sneer as surely as you carry the hunger inside you. The night stretches long, and still the fog does not lift. It holds you, presses close, and reminds you with every breath that the streets do not feed you, they consume you. And so you walk on, each step heavier than the last, knowing that hunger is only the first of many debts the city will demand. The door creaks as you push it open, and the smell of spirits rushes out to meet you, sharp and sweet, burning your nose before it even reaches your throat. The room is dim, lit by a few guttering lamps that throw more shadow than light, their glow slipping over hunched shoulders and bowed heads. The air is thick with the scent of spilled liquor, sweat, and unwashed clothes. It clings to the rafters, to the wooden walls stained black from years of smoke, and to you as you step inside. The counter is a battered plank of wood, sticky to the touch, lined with mugs chipped at the rim. Behind it, a woman with red cheeks and a hard mouth pours gin from cloudy bottles into waiting hands. Coins clatter against the surface, sliding through her fingers as quickly as the liquid she measures. She doesn't look up often, doesn't need to. Her customers keep their heads down, drinking fast, swallowing silence. You find a corner where the floor sags, the boards soft with rot. Around you, women sit slumped against the wall, their shawls slipping to reveal pale collarbones and hollow arms. One tips back her mug with practiced ease, draining it in a single swallow, then thumps the cup down for more. Another stares into hers without drinking, eyes unfocused, lips moving as though whispering a prayer. They laugh sometimes, but it's a laughter with no warmth, short, cracked, rising from throats too dry. The men are louder, their voices rise and fall, arguments spilling over into curses, fists pounding the table to punctuate words. One leans across to whisper in the ear of a woman beside him, his hand sliding across her knee, his laugh harsh when she flinches but doesn't move away. Another stares at you from across the room, his gaze heavy, his grin crooked. You know that look. It doesn't promise comfort. It promises a bargain you can't afford to refuse. The gin burns when you finally drink, hot and bitter, flooding your stomach with fire. For a moment it chases away the gnawing emptiness, softening the sharp edges of hunger and fear. The room blurs, sounds dull at their edges, and you let yourself lean back against the wall, closing your eyes. The warmth is cruel, it promises ease, but only for an hour, maybe less. When it fades, the hunger will return sharper than before. In the corner, a woman sings. Her voice is low, almost drowned by the noise, but the words carry fragments of an old song, broken by hiccups and laughter. Others join in, off-key, their voices swelling into something almost joyful. For a moment the room feels alive, bound together in a chorus of defiance, until the song falters, and silence returns heavier than before. The night stretches on. Some leave unsteady, weaving back into the fog, while others slump against the tables, their mugs still in hand. You rise slowly, the fire in your stomach already cooling, leaving behind a hollow ache. As you step back into the street, the fog presses close, and the sound of laughter from inside fades behind you. The gin shop does not fill you. It only teaches you how to endure your hunger for one more night. The shop bell jangles weakly as you push through the narrow door, its sound swallowed almost instantly by the cluttered gloom inside. The air smells of dust, old wood, and the faint metallic tang of coins that pass too quickly from hand to hand. Shelves line the walls, stacked with the remnants of other lives, hats once polished, bright pocket watches gone silent, dresses folded and faded, and rows of boots with soles worn thin. Each item bears the trace of someone's desperation, a story traded for survival. You approach the counter, its surface scarred by decades of bargains. The pawnbroker peers at you over small spectacles, his eyes sharp and quick, as though he has measured you before you've even spoken. He waits without warmth, his fingers tapping against the ledger already open, ink stains spreading like bruises across the page. You unwrap your shawl from your shoulders, the last bit of softness you own, and lay it down before him. The wool is thin, its edges fraying, but still, it carries the faint scent of smoke and your own skin. He lifts it with one hand, weighing it not for comfort or memory, but for value. His lips purse as he inspects it, holding it up to the lamplight. You see the calculation in his eyes, the way he decides not what it is worth, but how little he can give you while still taking it. At last, he lays it down flat, scribbles something in his ledger, and slides a few coins across the counter. They clink against the wood, their sound hollow. It is less than you hoped for, less than you need, but enough to buy bread, perhaps a corner of lodging for another night. The coins are cold in your hand, their weight both comfort and curse. Each one is a reminder of what you've lost and what you will never see again. You fold your fingers tight around them, as though they might vanish if you loosen your grip. Behind you, another woman steps forward, placing a pair of children's boots on the counter. The pawnbroker does not look at her face, only at the shoes, his expression unchanged. You turn away before you can see the bargain struck. Outside, the fog clings heavier than before, and the street hums with the restless energy of trade. Men shout prices, carts rattle over cobblestones, and women clutch coins close to their bodies, moving quickly to spend them before they are taken away. You pause at a stall, eyeing the loaves of bread stacked behind the glass, their crusts golden, their scent dizzying. The coins in your palm press hard against your skin. You slide them across the counter, and the baker's boy wraps a loaf in paper, barely looking at you as he passes it over. You walk away with it, pressed to your chest, the warmth seeping through the paper into your skin. It is not salvation, but for tonight it will be enough. Yet the emptiness grows louder inside you, whispering that each pawned possession is a piece of tomorrow you will never have again. And as you tear into the bread, the taste rough and sweet on your tongue, you already wonder what will be left to give when nothing remains but yourself. The fog hangs low, curling around the lampposts like smoke from a dying fire. Your shoes slap against the wet stones, the loaf of bread long gone, its comfort a memory already faded. Hunger has not been silenced, it only waits in the hollow places of your body, pressing harder with each passing hour. The streets do not empty, they shift. Merchants and mothers vanish into homes, and another kind of crowd takes their place. Shadows against walls, figures leaning in doorways, eyes searching. You feel the gaze before you see him. A rhythm in the street changes, footsteps slowing just behind you, the tap of a cane echoing sharp in the silence. When you glance sideways, a figure emerges from the mist. He is tall, wrapped in a heavy coat, his top hat tilted against the drizzle. The cane strikes again, measured, deliberate before he lifts it slightly, the gesture more command than greeting. His eyes glimmer under the brim, watching you the way men in this city always do, weighing, deciding, claiming before asking. Your pace falters, the air thickens. You know this moment not from books or stories, but from the whispers of other women, from the glances they exchange as one disappears into the fog with a stranger. The city leaves no doubt. Hunger drives the choice, and choice is hardly the word for it at all. He speaks low, his voice smooth as the silk of his cravat. yet every syllable drips with expectation. He asks nothing about your name, your past, or your hunger, only where. His coin purse jingles faintly as his fingers tap against it, an unspoken bargain. The sound is louder than your heartbeat, louder than the bells chiming faint in the distance. You want to run, but your feet hold fast. The memory of the pawnbroker's coins lingers, their weight gone too quickly, replaced by the gnaw of emptiness. Behind you, the lodging house waits with its coughs and shadows, demanding rent. In front of you, this man waits, his gaze heavy with ownership, his silence pressing you into a corner. The fog muffles the world. For a moment, you imagine slipping away, vanishing into its folds, unseen, untouched. But the street is not empty. Others watch from doorways, leaning close to the lamplight, waiting for their own bargains. Their eyes tell you what you already know. He has chosen you tonight. Your breath catches as he steps closer. The cane taps once more, then rests against the stones. His gloved hand extends slightly, not as an offer, but as a claim. The silver glints faint where the lamplight touches the purse at his belt. You hear the coins shift, the promise of warmth and bread wrapped in their cold metallic song. The hunger inside you answers louder than your heart. You nod once, slow, the fog curling between you as though the city itself bears witness. And in that moment, with a stranger's shadow pressing close, you understand. The street does not wait for you to decide. It chooses for you, and all you can do is follow where it leads. The door shuts with a dull thud, and the world outside vanishes. The fog, the lamplight, the whispers all swallowed in an instant, leaving you in a room that smells of damp linen and stale smoke. The shutters are drawn, though cracks in the wood leak faint slivers of yellow from the street lamps beyond. Inside, the silence is thick, broken only by the creak of the floorboards beneath your shoes and the slow scrape of a chair being pushed back. The man sets down his cane against the wall, his hat placed carefully on the table as though this room were no different from his drawing room at home. He does not glance at you as he loosens his gloves, one finger at a time, precise and deliberate. Each movement stretches the moment until the weight of the silence presses so hard against your chest you can scarcely breathe. You stand near the door, your shawl clutched tight around you, your back against the damp plaster. He speaks at last, but not to you. His words are muttered, a complaint about the chill in the room, about the innkeeper, about the city's endless smoke. You are not meant to answer, not meant to exist beyond the service your presence provides. When his eyes finally lift to meet yours, they are already cold, already emptied of anything resembling kindness. His gaze strips you down, layer by layer, until the shawl in your hands feels like no shield at all. The bed waits in the corner, its sheets grey with age, the blanket frayed at the edges. You see the dents where other bodies have pressed before, hear in your mind the echoes of whispered bargains, muffled cries, the springs creaking under the weight of countless nights like this one. The room remembers, even if the men do not. Every scar in the wood, every stain in the fabric, holds a piece of someone else's silence. He places coins on the table with the same ease he removed his gloves. They clink against the wood, small and final. Your eyes linger on them, the way they gleam in the lamplight, each one a promise of bread, of rent, of survival. The sound of them feels louder than the thud of your own heartbeat. He notices the glance. Of course he does. That is the exchange. Your hunger is the language, and his purse is the reply. When he gestures, you move. Not because you want to, but because the city has left you no other path. The floor creaks beneath your steps as you cross the space, each one heavier than the last. The bed sighs as you sit, the springs groaning as though they too protest, but the silence swallows even that. His shadow falls over you, blotting out what little light seeps through the cracks. The night does not ask you to feel, it asks only that you endure. And so you lower your eyes, clutch the shawl once more before it slips from your shoulders, and step into the silence that waits. Behind closed doors, the city takes its due, and your body pays the cost. The night air is sharper now, carrying with it the faint smell of coal smoke and sewage drifting up from the river. The fog has thinned, but it clings low to the ground, wrapping itself around the cobblestones like a shroud. You step back into the street, shawl pulled tight, coins hidden deep in your dress. They press against your skin, small and hard, as though reminding you of the price they carry. For a moment, you think only of bread, of warmth, of a bed without damp straw. But the sound of boots breaks your thoughts. It begins faint, a steady rhythm on the stones, then grows louder, closer, measured, unhurried, but heavy with authority. The whistle comes next, sharp and sudden, cutting through the stillness like a blade. You freeze, your breath caught in your throat. The fog seems to part around the figures that emerge, tall shapes moving with certainty, their lamps swinging, their eyes hunting. Constables, their coats dark, their batons glinting faintly in the lamplight, they move in pairs, scanning the shadows for women like you. You step back, pressing yourself into the doorway of a shuttered shop. The wood is damp against your spine, the iron latch cold beneath your hand. You hear the murmur of voices from further down the street, another girl, caught too far from shelter. The patrol calls to her, their tone sharp, mocking. She tries to move away, but the circle of their lamps follows her every step. The scrape of their boots echoes off the walls as they close in. You know the game well enough. The law calls it protection, regulation, morality, but you've seen how it works. The papers they carry, the lists of names, the power to drag you into the station for examination. To mark you down in ink that never fades, your name branded as fallen, diseased, unfit. Some women vanish into those ledgers and never return. Others come back pale, broken, their silence heavier than words. The girl down the street pleads now, her voice trembling. You cannot hear her words, only the shape of them in the night air. One constable laughs, the sound sharp, then the other raises his baton, tapping it against his palm as though reminding her of the weight he carries. She hands over coins, shaking hands pressed into theirs, and the men pocket them without shame. The lamp swings away, and just like that, she is left standing alone, her face streaked with tears the fog quickly hides. Your chest tightens as the patrol turns back. Their lamps sweep closer, their boots steady. You hold your breath, pressing deeper into the doorway, praying their eyes slide past the shadow you've become. For a moment, the light lingers on your shawl, on the edge of your face, and your heart pounds so loudly you fear it will give you away. Then, mercifully, the lamp swings aside, the boots move on, and the whistles fade into the distance. Only then do you let yourself breathe again. The coins in your dress feel heavier now, not like salvation but like evidence, proof of a crime the city insists you've already committed. And as you step back into the fog, you know the patrol will return, again and again, until there is nowhere left to hide. The parlor glows with a different kind of light, warmer, softer, but heavy with intent. Curtains of faded crimson hang against the windows, muffling the noise of the street, and oil lamps cast long, trembling shadows across the walls. The air smells of perfume layered over smoke, a sweetness too thick to be real. You step inside and feel the weight of eyes, not the drunken stares of strangers on the street, but sharper, calculating glances from the women who already belong here. At the center of it all sits the mistress. Her chair is high-backed, velvet worn at the edges, yet it might as well be a throne. She is not young, her hair streaked with grey, her face lined by years of smoke-filled rooms, but her gaze cuts through you like glass. Rings glint on her fingers as she fans herself slowly, the faint snap of its hinge punctuating the silence she commands. Her lips curl into the trace of a smile, one that never touches her eyes. She greets you not with kindness but with appraisal. Her words are soft but sharp, each question not really a question at all. Where are you from? What can you offer? Do you understand the rules? You answer with your eyes down, your voice low, knowing better than to meet her stare too boldly. This is her house, and in it she decides who eats, who sleeps, and who survives long enough to see another dawn. Around you, the room stirs with movement. Women drift in and out, their dresses brighter than anything you've worn, though the fabric frays if you look closely. They laugh, but their laughter is rehearsed, thrown into the air for the men who will soon arrive. You watch as one adjusts her bodice in the cracked mirror, another paints her lips in the reflection of a spoon. Their eyes flick to you, measuring, weighing if you will be competition or company. The mistress leans forward, her fan closing with a snap. She speaks of protection, of safety from the patrols outside, of rooms warmer than the lodging house, of meals that do not come from charity lines. But each promise is chained to a price. She will keep you clothed, fed, and guarded, but the debt will grow, and once you step through her door, it is hers to collect. You feel the coins in your pocket, pitiful against the weight of her words. She sees the hesitation in your face and leans back, smiling wider now. Her hand lifts, dismissing you with the elegance of a queen, yet her voice trails after you like smoke. Out there, you are meat for wolves. In here, at least, I keep the wolves at bay for a cost. The door closes behind you, and the fog greets you once again, curling cold against your skin. Her voice lingers, coiling in your mind. The streets are cruel, yes, but the brothel mistress has made her own kingdom inside these walls, and every woman who bows to her rule pays in coin, in silence, and in pieces of herself that can never be reclaimed. The night wraps itself close, damp and restless, but inside the narrow rooms where you sometimes lie, another enemy waits. It is not the fog or the constables, not even the men with their heavy hands and sharper words. It is something quieter, something that seeps into the body unnoticed until it blooms into pain too sharp to ignore. You wake to the sound of coughing. At first, it is just one, a wet, rattling gasp from the bed beside you. Then another joins, then another, until the air is filled with the chorus of lungs breaking down. The sound becomes the room's heartbeat. Steady, relentless, you sit up, pressing your hand to your chest as if to feel the strength still left there. The air tastes sour, thick with sickness that no window seems able to drive away. A girl beside you pulls back her blanket, her skin pale and damp with sweat. She whispers of aches, deep in her bones, of nights when fire seems to burn through her veins. Another woman, older, shows you sores along her arms, hidden in the crook of her elbow, red and raw. She shrugs when you flinch, muttering words you've heard before. The doctor says it will pass, but her eyes say otherwise. Doctors come sometimes, but their cures are as cruel as the disease itself. Bottles of mercury, bitter powders, needles that sting and leave the body weaker than before. Women return from the examination tables hollow-eyed, their lips trembling, their shame heavier than the illness. Some whisper that the cure is worse than the sickness, that it kills slower, stripping away strength until nothing remains. Yet still they go, because to refuse is to risk being taken, named, written down in the book, from which no woman returns unmarked. The fear spreads faster than the fever. You feel it in the way women shift away from one another, their shawls pulled tight, their hands hidden. Yet there is no true distance here. Beds press close, breath mingles in the stale air, and the sickness finds you whether you try to hide or not. You remember the stories told in whispers of women found cold in their beds, mouths flecked with blood, their names already forgotten by morning. Of girls buried in shallow graves, their bodies unnamed, their illnesses called a warning instead of a tragedy. The city uses their deaths as lessons, yet still leaves the rest of you to breathe the same air, to fight the same battle in the dark. Tonight, the coughs rise again, shaking the walls with their force. You press your shawl to your mouth, though you know cloth cannot keep out what creeps unseen. Your chest feels tight, your skin damp with sweat that chills too quickly in the night air. You lie back, staring at the cracked ceiling, listening to the sound of disease echoing through the room. The streets outside may promise hunger, fear, and the threat of violence, but in here, in the stillness of the dark, it is sickness that waits like a shadow at the end of every breath. The gates are tall, iron bars blackened by soot, their hinges groaning as they swing shut behind you. The sound is final, heavy, as though the world itself has drawn a line you cannot cross back over. Inside, the courtyard lies in silence. The walls rise high around it, stone grey and unyielding, streaked dark with rain. Windows peer down like watchful eyes, glass smudged and narrow, set too high to glimpse freedom beyond them. You walk slowly, each step echoing against the cobbles, and feel the weight of being swallowed whole. The women here move quietly, their heads bowed, their dresses plain and stiff. They carry buckets of water, scrub floors, peel vegetables in silence, their hands red and raw. No laughter, no whispers, only the scrape of brushes against stone and the dull clatter of tin plates. They pass you without meeting your eyes, as though even recognition is forbidden. The air smells of soap, damp wool, and something sharper beneath it, discipline. A nun watches from the doorway, her figure tall and rigid in her black habit. She carries no whip, no baton, yet her gaze alone feels like a blow. Her voice, when it comes, is cold and certain. She speaks of penance, of sin scrubbed away by work and prayer. Each word is carved in stone, leaving no room for argument. She tells you salvation can be found within these walls, but her eyes remind you that escape will not. The chapel stands at the heart of it all, its wooden pews worn smooth by knees pressed too often against them. Candles flicker weakly in iron holders, their flames too small to warm the vast empty air. Hymns echo through the halls morning and night, voices rising in unison, though most lips barely move. You add your own sound to theirs, a whisper too faint to be noticed, yet required all the same. The words catch in your throat, not from disbelief, but from the knowledge that no prayer will feed you when the bells fall silent. Work fills every hour, laundry piles high, sheets stained yellow with sickness, shirts stiff with sweat. Your hands ache from scrubbing, your back bends under the weight of carrying water from the pump. If you falter, if you pause, even for a breath too long, the nun's eyes find you. Her voice cuts sharp across the room, a command, a rebuke, a reminder. You bow your head, swallow your exhaustion, and return to the task. There is no choice here. At night, the dormitory is lined with iron beds, each one narrow, each one claimed by a body that turns restlessly beneath thin blankets. The coughs echo here too, the shadows long and heavy. You lie awake, staring at the ceiling beams, the air so still you can hear the soft sobbing of a girl 3 beds down. No one comforts her, no one dares. The asylum offers bread, water, shelter, and prayer. It takes in the women the city has thrown aside, then binds them tighter than the streets ever did. As you close your eyes, the thought lingers. Out there you are hungry, hunted, exposed. In here you are caged, washed clean of everything but the silence that follows you into sleep. The morning begins not with bells, nor with light, but with the ache in your stomach. It coils tight, sharp as wire, twisting until it feels as though your insides are being pulled together. You rise slowly, your hands pressed against your belly, but the hunger follows, clinging to your ribs, humming beneath your skin. The air is damp, the floor cold against your feet, and the weak light from the window does nothing to soften the emptiness gnawing inside you. Outside, the streets are already alive. The smell of roasted chestnuts drifts from a vendor's cart, their heat hissing in the chill. Beside him, a boy hawks meat pies, their golden crusts shining with grease. Your mouth waters, but the coins you once clutched are gone, scattered in the fog of nights past. You pause, your body leaning toward the stall, until the vendor notices your stare. He waves you off with a sharp gesture, his words rough, sending you stumbling back into the flow of the street. Everywhere you turn, food mocks you. Loaves of bread stacked behind glass windows, wheels of cheese cut and wrapped in paper, the sharp scent of salted fish hanging from hooks. You breathe it in until your throat tightens, then turn away, the taste of absence sharper than anything you could buy. Hunger follows you down every alley, pressing heavier with each step, making the world tilt and blur at its edges. Children huddle in corners, their small hands reaching out as passers-by sweep past without looking. One clutches a crust, stale and grey, nibbling at it as though it were feast enough. Their thin arms and hollow faces mirror your own emptiness, and for a moment you wonder if you look like them. Another body the city has forgotten, another shadow pressed thin by need. The market crowd swells as the day grows. Voices rise, bargains shouted, coins clinking, sellers calling out their goods. The sound becomes a tide, pulling you deeper into the crush of bodies. Elbows jab your ribs, feet scuff against yours, and still your eyes are drawn to the stalls, to the glint of apples, the shimmer of boiled sweets, the sheen of butter melting in the sundae. Your body moves without thought, your fingers twitching toward the edge of a basket. For a heartbeat, you consider it one apple, one crust, anything to quiet the gnawing inside. But the memory of the constable's baton flashes sharp in your mind, and you let the basket pass, your hand falling limp to your side. By evening, the ache has become a roar. You sink against the wall of a narrow alley, your back pressing into cold stone. The world moves without you, men in fine coats striding to dinners, women in silks stepping from carriages, lamps flickering to life as though they could banish the hunger. Your body curls inward, your shawl clutched close, your breath shallow. The city gives nothing freely. Hunger is its harshest lesson, the reminder that even survival has a price. And as you close your eyes against the noise and the lights, your stomach growls louder than the world around you, reminding you that tomorrow will demand payment all over again. The lamps glow brighter here, their glass polished, their brass fittings shining in the dusk. Heavy curtains block out the fog, muffling the clatter of hooves and wheels beyond the walls. You step into the hallway of the club, the air warm with coal fire and the sweet burn of cigars. Thick carpets hush your footsteps, swallowing the sound so that your presence feels half invisible. Paintings of hunts and naval battles hang on the walls, their frames gilded, their colors rich scenes from lives far removed from yours. The men here gather in clusters, their laughter booming, their words rolling together in a haze of smoke. They lean back in leather chairs, brandy glasses clutched in hands fat with rings. Their coats are cut fine, their collars stiff, their hair slicked smooth with pomade. Their voices carry authority, even when slurred, each syllable weighted by coin and certainty. They do not see you as a person. You are novelty, distraction, the evening's entertainment to be summoned and dismissed at will. A steward passes silently, his tray glittering with decanters. He does not glance at you, though he must see you. Servants here are trained to ignore what the gentlemen do not wish acknowledged. The mistress who brought you in waits by the door, her eyes sharp, ensuring you stand straight, ensuring you remember her rules. She takes her share in silence, long before the men take theirs. One of them calls to you, his voice slow with drink, his words carrying across the room like smoke. He gestures for you to approach, his hand heavy against the arm of his chair. You walk forward, your steps soft against the carpet, each one echoing louder in your chest than in the air. He studies you the way another man might study a horse at market, his gaze running over you without pause, without shame. The other men laugh, their cigars glowing in the dim light, as though your presence is part of a joke only they can share. He asks you no questions about yourself. Instead, he speaks of the wine he favors, the horses he owns, the deals he has struck. His words tumble, rich with indulgence, and you nod at the right moments, your face composed, though your mind drifts. When he leans closer, the smoke from his cigar curls against your cheek, leaving its bitter sting in your nose. His hand rests on yours, heavy, claiming. The laughter from the others grows louder, though you do not know if it is at his words or at the sight of you sitting beside him. The hours drag, the fire burns low, the brandy bottles drain, and the voices swell until they blur together, a tide of noise pressing you down. When at last you are dismissed, it is not with thanks nor with kindness. A coin drops into your palm, its weight both salvation and insult, gleaming dully in the firelight before you tuck it away. Outside, The fog waits. The warmth of the fire vanishes the moment you step into the street, replaced by the bite of cold air against your skin. Behind you, the club still glows, its windows bright with laughter and light, but none of it spills far enough to follow you home. The city does not allow it. It closes its doors, and you are left once more in the dark. The street is quiet at first, the kind of quiet that feels like breath held too long. The fog has thickened again, rolling low and slow, swallowing the outlines of lamps and buildings until the world narrows to just a few paces ahead. Your shoes click softly against the wet stones, each step sounding louder than it should, as though the city itself listens. You pull your shawl tighter, your shoulders hunched, but the damp air still clings to your skin, chilling you through. Somewhere behind, a sound rises soft at first, barely there but steady. Footsteps. They fall in time with yours, measured, deliberate, never rushing, never slowing. You glance back, but the mist is a wall, swallowing everything beyond a few faint halos of light. You pause, holding your breath. The footsteps pause too. Silence presses close, so heavy it seems to hum in your ears. When you move again, the sound returns, closer this time, its rhythm echoing against the cobbles like a warning. Your pace quickens, the shawl slipping as you clutch it to your chest. The lamps flicker, their glow breaking and fading as you pass, and the fog curls thick between them. The city feels endless here, alley after alley, each one darker than the last, doors bolted tight, windows shuttered against whatever wanders outside. You long for the noise of the market, for the crush of bodies, for anything but this silence that follows too close. A cat darts across the street, its shadow long in the lamplight. You startle, your breath sharp, and the footsteps behind quicken too. The sound is no accident. Someone follows. You turn sharply down a side lane, the stones uneven, puddles black as ink beneath your feet. The fog presses heavier, muffling the world until all you hear is the beating of your heart and the scrape of boots behind. You think of the stories whispered in the lodging house. Women found in alleys, their bodies cold, their names lost before morning. No one remembers the sound of their voices, only the marks left behind. The city keeps its secrets well, and the fog hides them even better. Your hand brushes against a door frame, the wood wet and rough. For a moment you consider pounding against it, begging to be let inside, but the silence on the other side tells you the answer before you ask. No one will open their door to a woman like you, not at this hour, not in this fog. The footsteps come faster now, the rhythm uneven, closing in. You clutch the shawl tighter, your breath sharp, your eyes searching for any light, any sign of safety. At the end of the lane, a lamp burns weakly, its glow trembling as though it too fears what lingers here. You fix your eyes on it, forcing your legs to move, each step harder than the last. When you reach the lamp, you turn once more, but the fog behind is empty, blank, as though no one had ever been there at all. The street is silent, your own breath the only sound. Yet the fear remains, clinging as tightly as the mist, reminding you that in this city, the danger is never only in what you see, it waits also in the silence that follows too close. The stall stands at the edge of the market, its wood darkened with rain, the paper sheets stacked in uneven piles beneath a lantern's glow. The boy selling them shouts headlines into the fog, his voice high and sharp, calling tales of crime and scandal to any ear that will listen. You drift closer, drawn by the words as much as by the heat of the lamp that flickers against the mist. The covers of the papers scream louder than the boy does, black ink sketches of wide-eyed women, their hair wild, their dresses torn, clutching at shadows that loom like monsters. Titles drip with menace: The Fallen Girl's Fate, The Midnight Killer of Whitechapel, The Sinful Wretch's Doom. They are stories made to thrill and to sell, cheap enough for anyone with a few pennies. The crowd leans in, their eyes bright, their mouths curved in hungry smiles. Men laugh, nudging each other, whispering as they point to the lurid pictures. Even women, shawls drawn tight, peer at the sheets, their faces pale but their coins ready. You stand at the edge, watching the papers disappear into eager hands. Every page pretends to be warning, every line dripping with judgment, but you know the truth in their gaze. They do not buy these sheets to be warned, they buy them to be entertained. The horror they read is your life lived in shadow, printed cheap, sold for less than the cost of bread. The boy waves one in your direction, the ink still wet, its picture a woman kneeling in rags while a shadow looms over her. You stare at it, and for a moment you see yourself there, your own shawl, your own hollow cheeks, your own silence beneath the weight of a man's hand. You step back, but the boy pushes it closer, his grin wide. He does not see you, not really, he only sees a sale. A man in the crowd buys two, tucking one into his pocket while he flips through the other, his laughter spilling into the night. He reads a passage aloud, voice mocking, and the words sting sharper than a slap. They describe a woman's body as if it were nothing but a stage for tragedy, as if her suffering were no more than a plot twist. The crowd chuckles, shaking their heads, clucking their tongues, but none of them turn away. You leave before the boy can press the sheet into your hands, before your own hunger tempts you to read the story of your life written by someone who has never known it. The sound of the market fades behind you, but the words cling, their echo carried in the fog. You know tomorrow another story will appear, another headline will shout of sin and ruin, another sketch will sell the same silence you live each night. The city devours its poor, not only in flesh but in ink. And as you walk away, your stomach empty and your shawl damp with mist, you realize that even your suffering is not yours alone. It belongs to the crowd, printed and sold, another penny dreadful in a city that feeds on the dark. The room smells of carbolic and damp cloth, a sharp, biting odor that stings your nose as soon as you step inside. The walls are bare plaster, stained dark where leaks have run, and the single window is so grimy the daylight comes through grey. In the center stands the table. Not polished wood or gleaming brass, but a slab scratched and scarred, its surface spotted with old stains that no scrubbing has ever erased. The iron instruments lie beside it, their edges catching the dim light, their shadows long against the wall. You are told to lie down. The words are clipped, impatient, and there is no kindness in the gesture of the hand that waves you toward the table. You obey because to refuse is not an option. The coins you scrape together have already been taken. Your shawl is folded on the chair, your shoes set beneath it, as if these small belongings tether you to safety while your body is surrendered to the examination. The table is cold against your back, the wood pressing into your spine. You hear the squeak of boots across the floor, the clink of instruments being shifted, and then the low voice of the doctor. He does not speak to you. His words are directed to the assistant who writes them down, his tone flat, his phrases like measurements, rash, discharge, swelling. Your body is described as if you are not present, as if you are nothing more than another specimen on his list. The lamp is swung closer. Its light burns against your skin, exposing everything you would rather keep hidden. His hands are quick, impersonal, yet each touch feels like invasion, like judgment pressed into your flesh. The instruments are cold, metal biting at tender places, the scrape and pressure making you wince. He does not pause when you flinch. He does not look at your face. He only mutters more words, words that will follow you long after you leave this room. You stare at the ceiling beams, counting the cracks in the plaster, clenching your teeth against the sound of your own breath. Around you, the air seems to grow heavier, as though it carries the memory of every woman who has lain here before, their pain layered into the silence. You wonder how many cried out, how many bit their tongues until blood filled their mouths, how many walked away with shame heavier than sickness. At last, the instruments are laid aside. The doctor straightens, his voice brisk, his eyes already elsewhere. A bottle is pushed toward you, mercury perhaps, or some bitter powder. You are told it will cure you, though you know it will burn, weaken, hollow you further. Still, you nod, because refusal means nothing here. You take the bottle, your hands trembling, and slip it into your shawl as though it were a gift instead of a sentence. When you step back into the fog, The air feels no cleaner. The smell of carbolic clings to you, a sour reminder of the table's touch. Your body is sore, your coins are gone, and the silence of the doctor's words presses against you like a verdict. In this city, illness is not only pain, it is punishment, carved into your skin, recorded in ink, and carried with you long after the cure has failed. The knock rattles the thin wood of the door, sharp and insistent. It comes again before you can rise, a fist heavy with authority, making the frame tremble as though it might split apart. The room falls silent. The whispers stop, the coughs are swallowed, and even the restless shifting of bodies freezes. Every woman knows that sound. It is not a client, not a neighbor, not even a landlord. It is the inspector, and he does not come to visit, he comes to record. The door opens without waiting for welcome. Boots scrape against the floorboards as the men step inside, their coats damp from the fog, their collars stiff, their hats dripping with rain. One carries a ledger, its black cover thick and worn, its pages fat with names inked in neat, merciless lines. The other carries nothing but a gaze that slides across the room, pinning each woman in turn, weighing them with the slow patience of a man who believes the city belongs to him. You feel his eyes on you, though you try not to meet them. He pauses, speaks low to his companion, and the scratching of a pen follows. Names, descriptions, notes you will never see, yet which will follow you longer than any man's footsteps. He asks questions, though not gently. Where you have worked, who you have been with, whether you have presented yourself for examination. His tone is not cruel, not mocking, but something colder indifference carved into syllables, as if your answers are only numbers, as if your life is no more than ink on his page. The women shift uneasily. One swears she has already gone for her papers, her voice trembling as she insists. Another keeps silent, her eyes locked on the floor, until the inspector steps closer, the weight of his shadow falling over her. The pen scratches again. She is written down. That is all it takes. No crime, no trial, only the decision of his hand. When his eyes return to you, your heart kicks hard against your ribs. He studies your shawl, your hollow face, your hands folded too tightly in your lap. His mouth twitches, not in pity, but in the faint satisfaction of having found what he was looking for. He asks your name, and you say it softly, though you know it will not matter. Once written, it belongs to him more than it does to you. The sound of the pen against paper seals it, final, binding. He moves on, noting more names, more details, until the ledger has grown heavier with ink. Then he closes it with a snap, nods once, and turns toward the door. No words of farewell, no glance back. The boots echo down the stairs, fading into the fog, leaving behind only the silence and the weight of what has been taken. Around you, the women begin to stir again, whispering to each other, their voices sharp with fear. You sit motionless, the echo of your name still burning in your ears. It is not just a word anymore. It is a mark in a book, a brand pressed into paper, a chain that will not break. And as you stare at the closed door, you know that the inspector's visit has left more than silence, it has left you tethered to a system that does not forget. The market swells like a living thing, spilling into the street with the noise of hawkers and the shuffle of countless feet. Voices overlap, men shouting prices, women bargaining sharply, children weaving between stalls with baskets too large for their arms. The smell is thick, a stew of fish left too long on hooks, bruised fruit split open on the cobbles, and the sweet, sharp bite of roasted chestnuts crackling in pans. Smoke from braziers clings to the fog, wrapping everything in a haze that stings your eyes. You slip into the crowd, shawl tight, body pressed among strangers. For a moment you are almost invisible, another figure swallowed by the tide of people. Stalls rise in crooked rows, their canopies sagging under the weight of rain. Apples gleam in neat pyramids, their skins wax to shine. But you know the taste of those apples is for others, not for you. The vendor's eyes flick quickly over your face, dismissing you before you can even speak. You move past a butcher's stall where a man lifts a cleaver, the crack of bone echoing above the din. A boy wraps meat in paper, his hands moving quick, his face streaked with blood. The customers cluster close, coins flashing, the smell of raw flesh mixing with sawdust scattered on the ground. Your stomach twists hard at the sight, hunger flaring sharp, but you press on, knowing the price is far beyond the weight of coins in your pocket. In the crush of bodies, hands brush too close. You feel fingers skim your shawl, a tug at your sleeve, a breath too near your ear. Theft runs both ways here. You've seen women snatch apples into folds of fabric, just as you've seen men slip coins from unwatched purses. The crowd hides everything, crime and survival alike. You pull your arms in close, guarding what little you carry, though you know how easily it could vanish. A commotion rises near the fishmonger's cart. Two women argue, their voices shrill, their hands grasping for the same bundle. The fishmonger shouts, his face red, but the crowd presses closer, hungry eyes watching as if this quarrel were sport. When the women break apart, one clutching her prize, the other empty-handed, the noise rolls on as though nothing had happened. The market consumes disputes as easily as it consumes food. You pause at a bread stall, your eyes locked on the loaves stacked high. Their crusts are dark and cracked, the smell dizzying in its sweetness. The baker's boy looks at you, his expression sharp, already ready to wave you away. You shake your head and move on before he can speak, before shame can add its weight to the hunger pressing inside you. As the sun lowers, lamps flicker to life, their glow catching the glint of coins still changing hands. You step back from the swell of the crowd, the noise and the smells fading into the mist. The market has given you nothing today but noise, and the memory of what you cannot afford. You clutch your shawl tighter, the press of bodies still lingering on your skin, and walk away into the fog. The market feeds the city, but it leaves you hungrier still. The evening fog creeps heavier, settling into the stones, curling low in the alleys as though it has always belonged there. You walk with the coins in your pocket, their edges cutting against your skin, but their weight feels small, already fleeting. Around you, the city roars, carriages rattling, voices rising, vendors calling until their throats rasp. But inside your mind another sound stirs, softer, older, a memory pressed like a faint crease into fabric long worn thin. You see it first in a shop window, not bread, not boots, but a doll. Its dress once white, now yellowed with dust, its porcelain face cracked faintly across one cheek. It sits propped on a shelf behind the glass, its glassy eyes staring blank and endless into the street. The sight stops you in your tracks, and for a moment, the noise of London recedes. You remember a smaller room, a warmer fire, hands not yet hardened by work. You remember clutching something like this soft, comforting before hunger stripped it from you, pawned away when the rent man came pounding on the door. The coins in your pocket burn. They could buy bread, perhaps a crust or two, but part of you aches with the thought of stepping inside, of touching something that once belonged to the world of innocence. You imagine carrying it back to your bed in the lodging house, resting its weight beside you as though you had stolen back a piece of the life that was taken. Yet you know better. A doll does not fill a stomach. A doll does not pay a debt. The shopkeeper's eyes, sharp and quick, remind you that nothing in his window is meant for you. You turn away, the memory chasing you down the street. You see children playing at the edge of the market, their laughter shrill and bright, their games simple, chasing hoops, clapping hands, singing rhymes that drift up into the fog. Their clothes are patched, their bellies no fuller than yours, yet their voices ring clear, untouched for now by the silence that waits for them later. You pause, watching, until one of them meets your gaze. The child's laughter falters, curiosity fading into the guarded look you know too well. You pull your shawl closer and move on, the sound of their play swallowed by distance. The past returns in flashes, the warm crust of bread your mother tore in half, the smell of wool drying by the fire, the lull of a song hummed low in the dark. You hold the memories tightly, though each one cuts, because they remind you of how far you have fallen, of what you pawned piece by piece until nothing was left but yourself. By the time night settles in, the streets blur with shadow. You pass another pawn shop, its shelves crowded with more remnants of lives sold away, rings, watches, ribbons, rosaries. Behind the glass, each item waits silently, stripped of the warmth it once carried. You pause only a moment before walking on. The coins in your pocket are not enough to buy back what has already been lost, and no price in this city could ever return your childhood to you. The night closes heavy, the fog pressing against the walls as if it wants to seep inside with you. The lodging house is louder than usual, the coughs sharper, the murmurs more restless, but your body is too tired to care. You retreat to the cellar, where the air is damp and sour, carrying the stench of mold and coal dust. The floor is earth, uneven and dark, the walls slick with moisture. You spread your shawl on the straw mattress, brittle and damp beneath you, and lie down with the hope that exhaustion will smother hunger. But the sound comes before sleep can. A faint scratch, so soft at first you think it might be your imagination. Then it comes again, sharper, claws dragging over wood. You lift your head, the silence around you stretching taut, the scratching shifts moving quickly across the beam above, then against the floor near your bed. The rats are awake, and the cellar belongs to them as much as it does to you. You see one when the lantern guttering in the corner flickers brighter. Its eyes glint red, its whiskers twitching as it scurries over a pile of rags. Behind it comes another, then another, their bodies quick, sleek, silent until their claws scrape against the boards. You pull your shawl tighter, pressing your knees to your chest, your breath caught in your throat. The women in the beds around you stir but do not rise. They have learned to live with it, their sleep broken each night by the rustle of vermin. One mutters a curse, rolling over, pulling her blanket tight around her head. Another groans, shoving a boot across the floor to startle the creatures back into the dark. But the rats only retreat for a moment before creeping closer again, fearless, drawn by scraps of bread crusts or crumbs hidden in pockets. You remember hearing stories in the market of rats that swarmed a sleeping woman, of a child who never woke. You told yourself they were only tales, told to frighten, yet now, watching their shadows dart across the walls, you feel the truth in every word. Their squeaks rise thin and shrill, their bodies weaving between the straw, their claws skittering until it sounds as though the cellar itself is alive. You sit rigid, listening, your heart pounding harder than the noise around you. The hunger inside your body twists with fear, and for a moment you wonder which will consume you first, the emptiness or the creatures that stalk you in the dark. One rat ventures closer, its nose twitching, its body pausing at the edge of your mattress. You kick sharply, your foot striking the ground with a crack. The rat bolts into the shadows, but the silence that follows does not comfort you. You know it will return. They always do. The night stretches long, broken by the endless scratching, the squeals, the scurrying that never stops. Sleep, when it finally comes, is thin and uneasy, haunted by the knowledge that in this city, even the smallest creatures feed on your weakness. And when dawn arrives, grey and heavy through the cracks of the cellar window, you rise with the certainty that hunger is not your only companion in the dark. The lamplight flickers against the fog, each glow a trembling island in the dark. You move carefully down the street, your shawl pulled high around your neck, your eyes fixed on the circles of yellow that mark the path. The city seems quieter tonight, but the quiet is never safety. It is only the pause before something steps from the shadows. You hear the tap of polished boots before you see him. His figure emerges slowly from the mist coat cut fine, hat tall, cane swinging lightly at his side. He is no constable, no beggar, no shadow hunched against a wall. He is dressed like wealth itself, and his gaze settles on you with the certainty of a man accustomed to getting what he wants. He stops in the pool of lamplight, tilting his head, and when he smiles, it is the smile of someone who already believes the bargain has been struck. His words flow smooth as oil. He speaks of warmth, of food, of silk against your skin. He tells you he knows a place, quiet and safe, where you might spend the night without fear. He promises coin, not just enough for bread, but enough for a week, maybe more. His voice is gentle, almost tender, weaving visions of rooms with thick curtains and fires that burn without smoke. In his eyes, you are not a stranger at all, but a story he has told many times, each ending with his satisfaction. You want to believe him. Hunger makes the promises taste sweeter, and the cold presses harder against your thin shawl. You picture yourself stepping into a house where carpets mute your steps, where meat roasts slowly over the fire, where laughter is warm, and coins clink steadily onto the table. His words wrap you in this vision until the fog itself seems to carry its scent. But you have heard enough whispers in the lodging house to know how such stories end. The promises are never meant for you. The warmth fades, the safety vanishes, and the debt left behind is heavier than the hunger you carry now. For every woman who returns with coins in her pocket, another disappears into silence. The city does not tell their names, only folds their absence into the fog. He steps closer, the lamplight catching the glint of his cane, the purse at his belt. His hand brushes against yours, gloved, firm, meant to guide but more to claim. He repeats his promises, softer now, more intimate, as though he whispers them just for you. His shadow falls over you, long and dark, stretching across the cobbles. You hold your ground, the fog curling between you, the lamplight flickering as though uncertain. For a heartbeat, you want to nod, to surrender to the comfort his words weave. But the memory of too many nights behind closed doors presses sharp against your chest. His promises are gaslight, bright for a moment, gone with a single breath. You step back into the mist, your shawl wrapped tight, your coins still hidden in your pocket. His smile falters as you vanish into the fog. Behind you, his footsteps echo once more, fading into the night, and the promises he carried dissolve like smoke, leaving only the cold truth of the street. The lodging house is quieter than usual when you return. The fog presses against the windows, dimming the lamplight inside until it feels as though the whole building has sunk into shadow. Women lie curled on their beds, some already lost to uneasy sleep, others staring at the ceiling as though counting cracks can hold off the hunger in their bellies. You slip into your corner, your shawl wrapped close, and only then do you notice her, the girl lying beside you. She is younger than most, her hair tangled across the straw mattress, her face pale as chalk. At first you think she is sleeping, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. But then the cough comes sudden, violent, tearing its way out of her throat. She doubles forward, her thin shoulders shaking, her hands clutching the blanket as though holding herself together. You reach for her instinctively, your hand brushing her arm, and feel how hot her skin burns beneath the sweat. She tries to smile at you, but her lips tremble. When she speaks, her voice is barely more than a whisper. She tells you her name, though the sound of it is weak, lost almost as soon as it leaves her mouth. She says she came from the country, that she once worked in a mill, that her mother still believes she is safe. Her words drift in fragments, broken by the cough that shakes her again and again. When she pulls the blanket away from her mouth, you see the red stain blooming against the fabric. Around you, the women turn away. No one wants to look too long, to listen too closely. Sickness spreads faster when it is acknowledged, or so they tell themselves. Better to roll over, to press a hand to the ears, to pretend that the sound of her suffering is only the wind rattling the windows. You know why they have seen too many girls slip into silence this way. To care is to invite grief you cannot afford. But you stay. You hold her hand, feeling how small it is, how her fingers clutch yours with a desperate strength even as her body weakens. She speaks of her mother again, of a song once sung at night to calm her to sleep. Her eyes close as she tries to hum it, the sound thin and broken, fading before it can form a tune. You whisper the words you remember from your own childhood, filling the silence so she can rest. For a moment, the noise of the city outside, the cries of vendors, the rumble of wheels, the echo of footsteps is drowned by something softer, almost tender. The cough seizes her again, harsher this time, pulling her upright, her body trembling with the effort. You press the blanket to her lips, your own heart racing, but the sound goes on until at last it breaks, leaving her collapsed and gasping. She leans against you, her forehead damp, her breath shallow, whispering her mother's name as though it might carry her safely through the night. You do not let go of her hand, not even when her grip slackens. You sit in the half-dark, watching her chest rise and fall, unsure if it will continue. The room around you hums with silence, each woman lost in her own fears, her own survival. But here, in this narrow bed, you keep watch, knowing that in a city that forgets its daughters, someone must remember at least one of their names. The night is wet, the stones shining with the reflection of gaslight blurred through fog. You walk carefully, your shawl clutched close, the hunger in your belly urging you forward even as your body aches from fatigue. The streets are thinner now, emptier, their silence broken only by the distant rattle of a carriage or the cry of a drunkard spilling from a tavern. You keep to the edges, where shadows hide you, but the sound of boots comes sharp and steady behind. You freeze. The rhythm is unmistakable, measured, heavy, the kind carried by men who know they own the streets after dark. A whistle gleams faintly at his side, though he does not raise it. He does not need to. The presence of the uniform alone is enough to still you. You lower your head as he approaches, hoping his eyes will pass over you, that the fog will hide your face. But his steps slow, and soon he is standing before you, his breath clouding in the chill. He asks no questions about your name, your hunger, or your story. His eyes fall instead to your shawl, your worn shoes, the way you clutch your hands together. He already knows. He does not need proof. Suspicion alone is enough. His voice is low, steady, carrying the weight of command. He says you have been seen. He says he could take you in. He says your name could be written down in the ledger, examined, marked forever. The fear clenches inside you. You picture the doctor's table, the cold instruments, the ink scratching your name into records that will never let you go. You see yourself locked in a ward, forgotten, your body treated like evidence instead of flesh. The thought makes your stomach twist sharper than hunger. Then his words shift, his gaze narrows, his mouth curling into something close to a smile. He does not speak of duty now, but of arrangement. He says, there is no need for the station, no need for records, no need for shame if you are willing to give him what he wants. His baton taps against his thigh, slow, deliberate, punctuating his meaning. The fog presses around you, and the world feels suddenly smaller, as though it has closed you into a cage with him. You look to the lamplight, hoping for another figure, another sound, anyone who might see. But the street is empty, the silence too thick. His eyes stay on yours, calm and certain, as though he has made this bargain countless times before. You think of the girl beside you in the lodging house, her coughs rattling her thin frame. You think of the brothel mistress, her promises heavy with chains. You think of hunger, cold, and the endless nights spent hiding from the ledger. All of it folds into this single moment, into the glint of expectation in his eyes. When you nod, it is not agreement but surrender. His smile deepens, and he steps closer, his shadow blotting out the lamplight. The bargain is struck without paper, without ink, without a word written down, but its weight settles heavy in your chest, another debt added to a life already owned by the city. Morning light comes weak through the fog, turning the street into a grey blur where every sound seems louder than it should be. Your shawl clings damp to your shoulders as you walk, head bent low, but the stairs find you anyway. They always do. Faces tilt, eyes narrow, lips purse into lines sharp as knives. You hear the whispers before you see the mouths that form them, the syllables clipped, traded like coins between strangers. They know. or they think they do. Perhaps it was the constable's glance the night before, perhaps the neighbors who saw you step into a door too late at night, perhaps nothing at all but suspicion feeding on hunger. It doesn't matter how it began. Once a whisper starts, it multiplies. You feel it trail behind you like smoke, staining every step. A shopkeeper sweeps his stoop as you pass. He pauses, his broom held still, his eyes following you. He does not greet you, does not nod, does not soften his gaze. He looks at you as though you've already stolen something from him simply by existing. You hurry on, your stomach hollow, the coins in your pocket few. At the bakery, the boy behind the counter stares long and hard before sliding a loaf across the wood. His fingers do not touch yours, though they brush every other customer without hesitation. The street seems narrower, the crowd tighter, as though the city itself conspires to press you into the open. Two women lean together, their voices low, their eyes darting toward you. They do not stop when you look at them. One even laughs, short and sharp, the sound carrying farther than words. You feel the heat rise in your cheeks, but your feet do not stop. They cannot. Hunger drives you forward, even as shame makes every step heavier. At the corner, a child tugs at her mother's skirts, pointing toward you. The mother bends low, her whisper not low enough, her hand pulling the child close as though your presence alone is a danger. You bite your lip, the taste of iron flooding your mouth. You keep walking, but the sound follows you, that word fallen echoing in their tones, in their eyes, in the way they shift aside to give you space, not out of courtesy, but out of disgust. By afternoon, the whispers grow sharper. A group of men outside the gin shop call after you, their laughter ringing through the street. Their words slice between mockery and desire, taunts thrown like stones. You do not turn, but their voices chase you, reminding you of the line the city has drawn, one you cannot step back across. When at last you return to the lodging house, you close the door quickly behind you, pressing your back against the wood as if it could keep the voices out. But they linger, woven into your skin, into the air you breathe. Public shame is not shouted in your face, it is carried in every glance, every whisper, every silence that wraps around you until you are no longer a woman, only a warning. The bells toll across the rooftops, their sound deep and heavy, rolling through the fog like waves against stone. You follow the sound almost without thinking, your feet carrying you past shop fronts and alleys until the church rises before you. Its spire vanishes into the mist, its doors wide, its steps worn smooth by countless feet. The smell of wax and cold stone drifts out, beckoning as much as warning. For a moment you stand still, staring at the great wooden doors, wondering if you dare to cross their threshold. Inside, the air is colder than the street. The stone walls drink in the warmth of candles, leaving the space dim, despite the rows of flames flickering along the altar. The echo of your footsteps follows you down the aisle, too loud in the silence, until you slow, head bowed, hoping not to be noticed. The pews creak as you sit, their wood polished by generations of hands and knees. You fold your own hands together, though you do not know what to pray for anymore. The hymn rises, voices carried by those already gathered, women in fine bonnets, men in tailored coats, children dressed neatly, all of them lifting their voices in praise. The sound swells, filling the vaulted ceiling, rising until it drowns out your thoughts. Yet the words catch in your throat. Your lips move, but no sound comes, and you feel the weight of your silence against their song. You glance around, your shawl clutched tighter, as if to shield you from their eyes. Some look past you, never seeing you at all, while others let their gazes linger a second too long. There is no kindness there, only curiosity sharpened into judgment. You see it in the way they whisper to one another as the hymn ends, in the way their shoulders turn, closing off space that was never offered to you in the first place. The priest's voice fills the church next, solemn, practiced. He speaks of sin, of purity, of women who stray from virtue and bring shame upon themselves and upon the city. His words roll over the congregation, each syllable cutting deeper into the silence around you. He never looks your way, yet you feel each phrase as though it were aimed directly at you, carving into your skin. You shift on the pew, the wood hard beneath you, your heart pounding in your chest. When the sermon ends, people rise. Their footsteps fill the aisles, their chatter soft but certain. Some offer coins at the altar, their gloved hands brushing the brass plate before turning to leave. You linger a moment longer, staring at the flicker of the candles, your own pockets empty, your own hands trembling. You want to kneel, to whisper something into the quiet, but the words will not come. As you step outside, the bells begin again, their sound rolling over the street. The congregation scatters, their bright clothes vanishing into the fog. You stand on the steps alone, the cold air biting your face, and realize the church gave you nothing. No warmth, no absolution, not even silence that could ease your burden. It offered only its judgment, leaving you to carry your prayer unanswered back into the mist. The tavern below is alive with noise, laughter, shouts, the scrape of fiddles, mugs slamming on wood. But above, past the narrow staircase that groans beneath your feet, another world waits. The air grows warmer as you climb, thick with perfume that cannot hide the sour trace of sweat and smoke. At the top of the stairs, a curtain hangs heavy, its velvet worn thin, its edges darkened by too many hands pulling it aside. You push through, and the sound of the tavern dulls, swallowed by the hush of the room beyond. The walls are draped in fabric, red and gold, their folds hiding the cracked plaster beneath. Oil lamps flicker, their light soft, hazy, making the air shimmer as though the room itself were breathing. A piano stands in the corner, its keys chipped but its notes still bright, played by a man who never looks up from his music. Women drift between tables, their dresses bright, their voices sweet with practiced laughter. They lean in close to men in fine coats, their words soft, their touches light, their smiles never faltering. The mistress watches from her chair near the back, her eyes sharp beneath the glow of the lamps. She sees everything, the exchange of coins, the tilt of a glass, the nod of a man signaling what he wants. No gesture escapes her notice. This is her kingdom, hidden above the tavern, shielded by curtains and secrecy. Out there, the city scorns you. In here, its men pay gladly for what they pretend not to desire. You walk slowly, your shawl clutched tight around your shoulders. The men's eyes follow, appraising, their mouths curved into smiles that hold no kindness. One raises his glass to you, his ring flashing in the lamplight. Another whispers something to the woman on his arm, both of them laughing softly as they look your way. You know the weight of those glances, the hunger behind them, hunger that costs nothing for them and everything for you. A door stands at the far end of the room, its frame polished, its knob gleaming faintly. Men disappear behind it with women on their arms, and when the door closes, the music grows louder, as though to cover whatever happens within. When it opens again, the women emerge with painted smiles, coins tucked away, their laughter bright and brittle. No one speaks of what happens in that room, yet everyone knows. You pause near a table, the wood sticky with spilled drink. A man gestures for you to sit, his hand heavy with rings, his smile wide. He speaks of wine, of warmth, of comfort waiting just beyond that polished door. His words are easy, smooth, as if he believes they should be enough. The coins he sets on the table glint in the light, their shine sharp against the dark wood. The music swells, the piano louder now, the women's voices brighter. Around you, the hidden room hums with life, with secrets, with bargains struck in whispers. You feel the weight of it pressing close, the choice already made long before you step through the curtain. And as you glance toward the door at the far end, you know the city has carved another space to consume you, one hidden, one gilded, one that hides its cruelty behind lamplight and velvet. Snow drifts thinly through the fog, flakes falling soft but already blackened by soot before they reach the cobblestones. The city wears winter like a shroud. Every breath steams in the air, every sound dulls beneath the muffled weight of frost. You walk along the Strand, your shawl pulled tight, your shoes slipping on the frozen stones. The wind cuts sharp against your cheeks, burning red, but it is the cold that settles deep in your bones that frightens you most. The lamps glow faint through the mist, their halos trembling as flakes swirl around them. Carriages rattle by, their wheels grinding against the frozen ground, their passengers hidden inside by glass and velvet curtains. You glimpse their faces, rosy, comfortable, warmed by furs, and the sight presses hard against the hollow in your chest. The distance between their world and yours feels wider than the street itself, yet their shadows fall across you just the same. Stalls line the edges of the road, their awnings sagging beneath the weight of snow. Vendors call out half-heartedly, their voices hoarse in the cold, offering roasted chestnuts, hot eels, mugs of steaming coffee. The scents carry on the wind, taunting, wrapping themselves around your hunger until it gnaws sharper than ever. Coins clink in the hands of those who stop, but your pockets are empty. You pause near a brazier, hoping to catch a little heat from the glowing coals, but the man tending it waves you off with a scowl. Heat is for paying customers. The cold follows you as you move on. Other women walk the strand too, their dresses thin, their shoulders bare despite the weather, their faces painted with rouge that runs faintly in the snow. They call softly to the men who pass, their voices trembling from more than the cold. Some laugh too loudly, others keep their eyes down, but each one waits, their survival balanced on whether a stranger stops. You catch their glances, the silent exchange of recognition, each of you bound by the same hunger, the same night, the same cold that does not care who you are. The wind grows harsher as the river nears. The Thames lies black and frozen at its edges, the ice cracked and jagged like broken glass. The smell of it, rank with refuse, rides the air, mixing with the sweetness of roasted chestnuts until your stomach churns. You pull your shawl tighter, though the fabric is too thin to block the cold. Your fingers stiffen, your breath clouds white, and still the strand stretches ahead, endless, crowded, unfeeling. At the corner, laughter bursts from a tavern, warm light spilling across the snow. Men pour out, their boots crunching, their voices loud with drink. One notices you, his grin wide, his words slurred. He calls gestures, promises warmth inside. The others laugh, jeering, watching to see if you follow. You do not answer. You walk on, the cold stronger than your pride, yet your pride still strong enough to carry you past. The strand narrows into mist again, the glow of the tavern fading, the snow falling steady. Each step is slower than the last, each breath sharper, but you keep moving. In this winter city, to stop is to freeze, and to freeze is to be forgotten. And so you walk, your body trembling, your eyes on the faint circle of the next lamp ahead, your hope no warmer than its flickering glow. The room smells sharp, like spirits and damp wool, the kind of air that stings the throat as soon as you breathe it in. The table beside the bed is cluttered with bottles, brown glass, corks half broken, labels smudged from too many hands. Among them lies the syringe, its metal dull but its glass barrel clear, gleaming faintly in the lamplight. The doctor's hand hovers over it, steady, practiced, as though the act is as ordinary as pouring a drink. You sit on the edge of the bed, your shawl slipping from your shoulders, your breath uneven. He speaks in clipped tones, his voice carrying authority but little warmth. He tells you this will help, that the fire in your body will ease, that the gnawing hunger, the pain in your bones, the shadows in your mind will quiet. He does not speak of danger, though you've heard the whispers how some women never rose again after the prick of the needle, how others returned weaker than before, their lives drained night by night. Still, you nod. Hunger makes promises sound sweeter, and exhaustion makes any relief worth the risk. You roll up your sleeve, the fabric thin and frayed, exposing the pale skin beneath. The cold air makes you shiver as the doctor ties the band tight around your arm. Your pulse throbs beneath it, sharp and insistent. He taps the needle, a drop of liquid clinging to its tip before it falls, leaving the metal gleaming like a blade. The sting is quick, sharper than you expected. The burn follows, spreading through your arm, down into your chest, flooding you with heat. For a moment you gasp, the world swimming, your vision blurring at the edges. The hunger dulls, the ache in your chest eases, and a strange softness steals over you. Your limbs feel lighter, your breath slower, your thoughts sinking into a haze where nothing presses too hard. Around you, the room changes. The damp walls seem less grey, the lamp burns brighter, the air softer. You lean back, your body surrendering, the shawl falling to the floor unnoticed. The doctor watches, noting your reaction, his face unreadable. He moves on quickly, already preparing another dose for someone else waiting outside. To him, you are not a woman, not a name, only another body, another mark in his ledger of patience. The warmth spreads deeper, until it feels like floating. The sounds of the street below, the clatter of hooves, the cries of vendors fade into something distant, like echoes from a dream. For the first time in days, perhaps weeks, you do not feel the claw of hunger, the bite of cold, the weight of fear. Relief floods you, but it comes with an edge, sharp and dangerous, like a flame burning too close to your skin. When the doctor leaves, the needle packed away, the room grows still again. You lie back, staring at the cracked ceiling, your breath slowing. The heat lingers, but beneath it lies something else, a quiet dread, a knowledge that this comfort is only borrowed. The city does not give freely. Every drop of relief comes with a cost, and when the warmth fades, the hunger will return sharper than ever. The needle is not a cure. It is another chain, waiting to tighten. The bed beside yours is empty. The straw is flattened, the blanket rumpled, but the girl who slept there has not returned. You notice it first in the silence, the absence of her cough, the way her laughter sometimes broke the dark, the murmur of her voice when she whispered stories to herself in the half-light. Now the space is still, and the stillness presses against you harder than noise ever did. The other women do not speak of her. They move quickly, tying shawls, fastening skirts, slipping out into the night without glancing at the vacant bed. Silence becomes its own language, heavy and sharp. You ask once, your voice soft, but the woman beside you only shakes her head, pulling her blanket tighter around her shoulders. Her eyes avoid yours, as though answering might summon something worse. You rise and step outside. The street is damp, the fog clinging to the stones, swallowing the glow of the lamps. You walk slowly, searching the faces in the shadows, but none belong to her. The alleys stretch long and narrow, each one darker than the last, each doorway hiding figures who turn away when you pass. Somewhere in the distance, a whistle blows. Boots scrape against cobblestones. You flinch, pulling back into the mist, your heart heavy with the thought that she might have been caught in their gaze. Later, in the market, you hear whispers. A girl taken in the night, a body pulled from the river, unnamed, a sickness that carried one away before morning. The stories shift depending on who tells them, but the end is always the same. Gone. You hold the bread in your hands, its warmth bleeding through the paper, but the weight of it feels strange now. You think of how she once shared her crust with you, how she hummed to herself even when hunger gnawed at her bones. You wonder if her name will linger in anyone's memory once her bed is filled again. Back at the lodging house, the keeper's voice cuts through the gloom. She counts the beds, her gaze settling briefly on the empty one, and then she moves on. No questions, no concern. Only the certainty that another girl will arrive soon enough, her coins ready, her place claimed. The city has no room for mourning. It replaces its daughters as easily as it consumes them. That night, you lie awake, staring into the dark. Every sound becomes sharper, the scratch of rats in the walls, the whistle of wind through the cracks, the faint rustle of blankets as women shift in restless sleep. You imagine her footsteps outside, her hand pressing against the door, her voice whispering to be let in. You almost rise, almost reach for the latch, but the silence holds steady. When dawn comes grey and cold, The bed beside you remains empty. The straw lies flat, the blanket folded by no one's hand. The missing friend has vanished into the city's fog, and the world has already closed around her absence. You clutch your shawl tighter, your breath shallow, and understand that in this life, disappearance is not an ending, it is an inevitability. The Thames lies black under the winter sky, its surface broken only by the slow ripple of current and the faint glimmer of lamps along the embankment. The air here is colder, sharper, carrying the stink of refuse and smoke, the sour bite of fish guts tossed into the water. You walk slowly along the bank, your shoes slick with frost, your breath turning white in the air. Each step feels heavier than the last, as though the river itself pulls at you. The water looks endless in the dark. The fog curls over it, hiding the far bank, turning the world into nothing but shadow and ripple. The city hums faintly behind you, distant bells, the clatter of wheels, the cries of drunks spilling from taverns, but here the sound is muffled, swallowed by the vast silence of the river. You stop at the edge, staring down, the faint light of a lamp reflecting like fire in the black surface. Stories cling to the Thames as thickly as the mist. You've heard them whispered in the lodging house, murmured between coughs and snores, of women who walked here after the night's work, their pockets empty, their bodies hollow, their hope gone. Some slipped quietly into the water, leaving nothing behind but ripples. Others were found the next morning, dragged out by fishermen, their names unknown, their faces turned toward the grey sky. The river is both witness and grave, swallowing secrets that the city does not care to keep. You step closer, the stones slick beneath your boots. The smell grows stronger, foul and brackish, clinging to your skin. The current whispers, soft but insistent, promising an end to hunger, to cold, to the endless bargains struck in shadows. For a moment, you imagine it the release of stepping forward, the silence that follows, the weight lifted at last. The thought coils in your chest, heavy and frightening, yet strangely calm. A cry breaks the stillness. You turn, startled, to see another figure crouched further down the bank. She is bent low, her shawl slipping from her shoulders, her face hidden in the mist. At her side sits a bundle, small and still, wrapped tight in cloth. She rocks back and forth, her voice breaking as she mutters words you cannot hear. When she lifts the bundle, pressing it close, you see the shape within it, too small, too fragile. Her sobs carry faintly over the water, then vanish as she slips into the fog. You do not follow. The silence that settles after is heavier than the cold. You turn back to the river, your body trembling. The water laps faintly at the stones, dark and endless, waiting. You clutch your shawl tighter, stepping back until the sound of the current fades behind you. The city may not care whether you vanish into its depths, but tonight the river will not claim you. You walk away, the smell of brine still clinging to your skin, the stories of its black waters pressed deeper into your heart. In the end, the Thames is not only water, it is the shadow of despair that follows every step you take through the fog. The house glows like a lantern in the fog, its windows spilling golden light across the cobbles. Music drifts out, violins and laughter, the clink of glasses, the shuffle of feet on polished floors. You hesitate at the door, the weight of your shawl heavy on your shoulders, before being ushered in by a servant who does not meet your eyes. The warmth of the fire inside hits you like a wave, its glow bright against the crimson wallpaper, the gilt-framed mirrors, the crystal chandeliers trembling with every step of the dancers. You are led not to the center of the room, but to its edge, where the gentlemen gather in clusters, cigars glowing, their voices low and sharp. They glance at you, their expressions shifting between curiosity and amusement, as though you were some novelty dragged in from the fog to liven their evening. One beckons, his fingers heavy with rings, his coat rich with embroidery. He pulls you closer, his breath sweet with brandy, his eyes bright with indulgence. He does not ask your name. Instead, he parades you like a trophy, tugging you toward his companions, their laughter rising as he introduces you with mocking words. They smile, their teeth flashing in the firelight, their glances cutting deeper than any blade. One raises his glass in toast, another leans close with a jest you cannot quite hear, though the laughter that follows tells you enough. You are not a guest here, you are entertainment, something to point at, to prod, to laugh over until the music swells again. The food laid out on the table glitters with richness, roasted pheasant, pies spilling with meat, puddings drenched in syrup. The smell makes your stomach ache, but none offer you a plate. Their glasses refill endlessly, their hands busy with knives and forks, yet you stand empty, your hunger drowned beneath their noise. You are not meant to eat. You are meant to smile, to endure, to play the part they imagine for you. One of the men, flushed with drink, tugs you closer, pressing a coin into your hand as though it were a joke. His words slur as he tells you it should be enough to buy you new shoes, though his friends laugh louder, knowing it is worth less than the wine they spill onto the carpet. You feel the coin in your palm, its weight pitiful, its shine dull beneath the chandeliers. Still, you close your fingers around it. Hunger does not care about dignity. As the night stretches, the laughter grows harsher. Their jokes come faster, louder, until you feel yourself shrinking under their gaze. You glance toward the door, its shadow just beyond the light, but none of them notice. They are too busy with their brandy, their boasts, their jests at your expense. When at last you step into the fog again, the warmth of the house fades behind you. The coin burns in your hand, more insult than salvation, but you tuck it away all the same. Their laughter follows you into the night, echoing in the mist, a reminder that to them you were never a woman at all, only a jest to be shared and forgotten by morning. The fog lies thick over the stones, rolling in from the river until every alley is a mouth waiting to swallow. You keep your steps quick, your shawl drawn high, your ears straining for sound beyond your own breathing. Hunger gnaws in your stomach, but it is fear that keeps your pace steady. You know these streets too well, know that danger waits not only in uniforms and ledgers, but in shadows that breathe and follow. Tonight the silence feels wrong, too deep, too still, broken only by the drip of water from a broken gutter and the scurry of rats through refuse. You sense it before you see it, the shift in air, the weight of a gaze pressing from behind. You turn a corner sharply, hoping the fog might cloak you, but the footsteps follow, slow at first, then faster. You glance back, and the shape emerges. A man, his coat torn at the collar, his hat low, his eyes gleaming in the lamplight. His hand glints too, something thin and silver flashing as he moves. The sight freezes your breath, the long, narrow blade catching the glow before the fog swallows it. Your heart pounds against your ribs as you press into the wall, your back scraping damp stone. He steps closer, the knife catching light again, his breath ragged with drink or hunger or both. His voice is low, muttering words you cannot quite catch, though their meaning is clear enough. His shadow stretches long across the cobbles, reaching toward you like claws. You know there is no help coming. The streets are empty, the tavern doors closed, the windows above shuttered against cries they do not wish to hear. You think of the inspector's ledger, the doctor's table, the brothel's velvet rooms, and realize how each place strips you, leaves you bare. But here, in the alley, it is not ink or coin that threatens, it is the cold edge of steel. You move before you think. Your hand clutches the coin you earned, the single insult of the night before, its edges biting your palm. You fling it into the dark, the clatter ringing sharp against stone. His eyes dart toward the sound, just for a breath, and you run. Your feet slap against the cobbles, your shawl flying loose, the fog curling around you as you push forward with everything left in your body. Behind you, his steps pound the stones, the knife flashing once more before the mist swallows it whole. You turn again, slipping down a narrower alley, your lungs burning, your body trembling. The fog closes in, hiding you, muffling your breath as you press against the wall. His footsteps falter, grow faint, then vanish altogether. The silence returns, heavier than before. You slide to the ground, your shawl damp against the stones, your chest heaving. The cold seeps into your skin, but you do not move. You listen, waiting for the sound of boots, for the scrape of steel, for the rush of breath too close. But only the fog remains, curling soft around your body, whispering what you already know. In these alleys, safety is nothing but a trick of the mist, gone the moment you believe in it. The ward smells of carbolic acid and damp linen, a stinging sweetness that clings to the back of your throat. Rows of iron beds stretch down the long room, their frames chipped and their blankets grey with wear. The ceiling is high, the windows narrow and streaked with soot, letting in only a thin, ashen light. The air is heavy with coughs, groans, the restless shifting of bodies that cannot find comfort. You step inside and feel the weight of it all press against your chest, as though the very air is ill. Women lie in the beds, their faces pale and waxy, their lips cracked. Some stare blankly at the ceiling, their eyes glassy, their breaths shallow. Others twist and mutter in fevered dreams, their words spilling into the air like fragments of prayers. Nurses move between them, their shoes squeaking against the stone floor, their arms carrying basins of water, cloths, bottles of bitter-smelling tinctures. Their voices are brisk, efficient, but not unkind, though it is the kind of care born of duty, not affection. You are guided to a bed near the wall, the mattress thin, the blanket rough against your skin. You sink into it, though rest does not come. The sounds of the ward surround you, relentless. Each cough and gasp another reminder of how thin the line is between lying here for a night and never leaving again. The woman beside you clutches a rosary, her lips moving silently, her fingers trembling over each bead. On the other side, a girl no older than 16 shivers beneath her blanket, her hair plastered to her damp forehead. You hear the wet rasp of her breath, and it echoes in your own lungs. The doctor arrives, his coat long and dark, the hem stained from the streets outside. He does not linger at any one bed for long. He examines, mutters, scribbles, notes into a ledger that seems heavier with every page. He pauses at yours only briefly, pressing a hand to your wrist, glancing at your eyes before moving on. To him you are not a name, not a story, but another line of ink, another body in a row of countless bodies. The hours stretch, measured not by clocks, but by the groans and whispers of those around you. A woman down the row begins to cry softly, her hands reaching for someone not there. Her voice grows weaker until it fades entirely, and the nurse draws the curtain around her bed. The rustle of the fabric, the finality of it, sends a shiver through the ward. No one speaks, but every woman feels the silence settle into her bones. You pull the blanket higher, the scratch of it rough against your chin. The smell of carbolic lingers sharp, the air heavy with fever. You close your eyes, though sleep does not come, and wonder if tomorrow you will still rise. In this place, survival feels like a lottery you have not been asked to buy a ticket for, only to wait, to watch, and to breathe as long as you can. The hall smells of damp stone and ink, the air heavy with the murmur of voices that fall silent as soon as the magistrate enters. The ceiling is high, the walls lined with wood darkened by years of smoke and polish. The benches creak beneath the weight of bodies pressed together, men in stiff collars, women with bonnets drawn low, curious faces eager to witness another judgment. You are led to the front, your steps echoing against the floor, your shawl clutched tight, though it offers no protection here. The clerk calls your name, his voice flat, his eyes never meeting yours. The magistrate does not look up at first, his quill scratching steadily across the page. When he finally lifts his head, his gaze is sharp, assessing, as though you are no more than a line in his book, another mark to be tallied and dismissed. His wig gleams faintly in the light from the tall windows, his lips pressed thin as he begins to speak. The charges are vague but heavy: loitering, solicitation, disturbing the peace. Each word rolls through the air like a stone thrown into water, sending ripples through the crowd behind you. You want to speak, to protest, to tell him of the hunger, of the cold, of the choices pressed upon you until no choice remained at all, but your voice sticks in your throat. The rules here do not bend for women like you. A constable gives his account, his tone clipped, his gaze firm. He speaks of your presence on the street, of the way you stood near the lamplight, of the men who lingered nearby. He does not mention the hunger in your belly, the fear in your chest, the cold that forced you out into the night. He does not need to. His word is law enough. The magistrate nods, writing, the scratch of his quill drowning out your silence. The crowd shifts, their whispers rising and falling like a tide. Some sneer, others smirk, some shake their heads with mock pity. You feel their eyes burn against your skin, stripping you bare more than the words of the constable ever could. To them you are already guilty, already condemned, a spectacle to be witnessed before they return to their dinners and their warm fires. The magistrate speaks again, his verdict quick, his tone final. A fine impossible for you to pay, a warning, though not one meant to protect you. The threat of prison lingers unspoken but heavy, a shadow cast over every word. He does not look at you as he delivers it. His gaze has already moved on to the next name in the ledger, the next body waiting to be judged. You are led away, your shawl slipping from your shoulders, your feet heavy on the stone floor. The whispers of the crowd follow, sharp as needles, pricking your skin with every step. Outside, the fog waits, curling cold around you, swallowing the courthouse behind. The judgment lingers, not in the paper or the ink, but in the eyes that will look at you tomorrow and every day after. In the city's book, you are already written, and there is no erasing the line. The street is brighter here, wide and lined with tall houses that rise like fortresses against the fog. Iron railings gleam black with rain, brass knockers shine on polished doors, and carriage wheels leave clean tracks across stones, swept daily by servants. You walk carefully, your shawl clutched close, your shoes leaving faint marks in the frost that clings to the edges. The air itself feels different, less smoke, less rot, scented faintly with coal fires burning clean behind curtained windows. A carriage slows as it passes, its wheels splashing through a shallow puddle. Inside, a woman sits framed by velvet drapes, her bonnet trimmed with lace, her gloves pale against the dark seat. Her eyes flicker to you for only a moment, yet the weight of that glance lands like a stone. It is not curiosity, nor even fear. It is judgment, swift and final, drawn sharp as the edge of a blade. She does not speak. She does not need to. Her lips press thin, her gaze turns away, and the carriage rolls on, leaving the silence of her disdain trailing behind. You pause, the cold seeping through your shoes, the fog curling closer as though to hide you from what has just passed. But the glance lingers, sharper than the night air, burning into you. You see it in the reflection of every window you pass, in the tilt of every head that turns as you walk this cleaner street. Respectable women step aside, skirts lifted from the ground, eyes avoiding yours but bodies shifting enough to remind you that you do not belong here. At the corner, two ladies stand beneath a lamp, their gloves pristine, their laughter soft. They lower their voices when you approach, their gazes sliding to your shawl, your worn shoes, the hollows beneath your eyes. One whispers, the other smiles faintly, and they turn away, the sound of their amusement fading into the fog. Their silence says more than words could. To them, you are not a woman at all. You are a lesson, a warning, a shadow crossing a street where you should not walk. You continue, each step heavier, the lamps above glowing golden yet offering no warmth. Behind those doors, fires roar in hearths, tables gleam with silver, children sleep safe beneath heavy quilts. You imagine the softness of those rooms, the fullness of those bellies, and then remember the shawl around your shoulders, thin and damp, its edges frayed, its weight more burden than comfort. The rich woman's glance follows you long after her carriage has vanished into the mist. It sits in your chest, colder than the wind, harder than the frost beneath your feet. You realize then that hunger and sickness are not the only punishments this city gives. It strips you also of dignity, of the right to be seen as human. To her, and to all like her, you are not a daughter, not a friend, not a woman. You are a shadow that must be turned away from, a face that must be forgotten the moment it passes. And so you walk on, the fog wrapping tight around you, the echo of her eyes heavier than any coin you might earn tonight. The air in the lodging house is close, thick with damp, and the stench of bodies too long unwashed. You lie beneath a thin blanket, its fabric rough against your skin, but even with it pulled high, the cold seeps through, settling in your bones. At first it is only a shiver, a chill that makes your teeth clench, but soon it grows into something deeper. Heat blooms beneath your skin, fever sharp and sudden, leaving you trembling though sweat runs in rivulets down your face. The cough starts small, a rasp at the back of your throat. By midnight it tears through your chest, each fit leaving you gasping, your body shaking as though it might break apart. The women around you stir, turning uneasily in their beds, pulling shawls tighter around their shoulders. One mutters a curse, another shifts farther away, but none speak to you directly. In this place, fever is feared more than hunger, and sickness is a shadow no one dares invite closer. You press the blanket to your mouth to stifle the sound, but it cannot hide the rattle in your lungs. Your breath feels thick, heavy, as though every inhale drags against something sharp inside. The room spins in waves, the cracked ceiling swaying, the flicker of the lamp stretching into long, shivering lines. You try to steady yourself by gripping the mattress, but your hands are slick with sweat, your fingers trembling too much to hold. Memories blur into the fever. You see your mother's face, though it is thin and faded, her voice humming a song that you cannot quite catch. You see the market stalls glowing with fruit, your stomach clenching as though you had just passed them. You see the river, black and endless, its water curling close as though ready to pull you in. The visions come and go with each breath, mingling with the shadows in the corners of the room. Beside you, a woman stirs. For a moment you feel her hand press against your forehead, her skin cool against your burning flesh. Her eyes meet yours, and in them flickers not judgment, not disdain, but something soft, a pity, perhaps, or the echo of memory. She whispers for you to hold on, though her voice is thin, and soon she withdraws, turning back to her own corner of the night. The hours crawl. The fever rises and falls like a tide, waves of heat and chill leaving you exhausted, too weak to move, too restless to rest. The cough claws deeper, leaving your throat raw, your chest aching. Every breath feels like a bargain, every gasp stolen against the weight pressing down. By dawn, the fever has not broken. The light through the window is pale, grey, filtered through soot and frost. You lie motionless, your body damp, your shawl clinging to your skin. Around you the women rise, preparing for the day, their footsteps and whispers moving past without pause. The world goes on, indifferent, while you lie in the grip of sickness, uncertain whether the next breath will come. In this city, fever does not wait for mercy, it takes what it will, and leaves silence in its wake. The mistress stands in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the glow of the hallway lamp. She does not need to raise her voice, the weight of her presence fills the room. The women fall silent, eyes dropping, hands clutching at shawls or coins hidden in skirts. You sit up slowly, your body still aching from fever, your head light with weakness. But her eyes are already on you, sharp as glass, and you know why she has come. She speaks of accounts, of nights worked, of coin promised but not delivered. Her voice is smooth but cold, each word measured like the ticking of a clock. She does not mention the sickness that kept you in bed, nor the hunger that gnaws you hollow, nor the constable who pressed a bargain on you in the street. She speaks only of debt, and in her tone there is no room for argument. The women watch, their silence heavy. Some look away, others glance at you briefly with pity or warning in their eyes. They know this ritual well. The mistress does not forgive. She collects, and what cannot be paid in coin is always paid in another way. You reach into your pocket, pulling free the few coins you've held back. Their weight is pitiful, their shine dull. You lay them in her palm, your hand trembling, but she does not close her fingers around them. She stares instead, her mouth curving into the faintest smile, mocking, sharp. Too little, far too little. Her gaze does not leave yours as she speaks again, her words soft enough that only you can hear. She tells you there are other ways to pay, that your body, your silence, your obedience are worth more than the coins you clutch so desperately. She leans closer, her perfume sharp with rose and smoke, and whispers that the street outside is not mercy, it is wolves and knives and water black enough to swallow you whole. Here, at least, she can keep you. But she will keep you on her terms. The room seems smaller, the air tighter. You feel the women's eyes flick toward you, then away, each of them remembering when they stood where you stand now, each of them knowing you cannot refuse. The mistress straightens, the coins still lying untouched in her palm, and turns to leave. She does not slam the door. She does not need to. Her silence speaks the rest. You sit back on the mattress, your body trembling, your breath caught in your chest. The coins in her hand are gone now, though you never saw her take them. Around you the women return to their whispers, their preparations for night, their own debts waiting to be called. You stare at the cracks in the ceiling, your body heavy with exhaustion, your mind reeling with the weight of what has been demanded. The city has taken much from you, your childhood, your dignity, your health. But now the mistress has reminded you of the last truth. In this life, debts are never erased. They are only traded, collected piece by piece, until nothing remains but the final silence that no one dares to speak aloud. The churchyard lies on the edge of the city, where the fog drifts thick over crooked stones and the ground sinks soft with rain. The gate creaks as you push it open, its iron cold beneath your hand, and the silence beyond presses heavy. No hymns ring here, no crowds gather. Only the caw of crows in the bare branches, only the rustle of wind through brittle grass. You walk slowly between the rows, your shoes sinking into the mud, your eyes catching on names carved deep into granite, fathers, mothers, merchants, soldiers. Names that will be spoken aloud, remembered. But toward the far corner, the stones thin. Here the earth is broken, uneven, marked only by wooden stakes driven shallow, their surfaces already warped by damp. Some carry a number scrawled faintly in chalk, others stand blank, leaning, forgotten. It is here the women are laid, no choir, no procession, no flowers. A body lowered quick into the ground, a mound of soil heaped over it, the silence broken only by the scrape of a shovel. You stop at one of these mounds, its edges already sinking into the earth. A shawl lies half buried in the dirt, caught by the wind and left behind. You crouch, your fingers brushing the fabric, damp and frayed, its color faded to nothing. You do not know whose it was, one of the girls from the lodging house perhaps, or another who vanished into the fog without farewell. Her name is gone, lost to the streets, swallowed by the river of silence the city pours over its dead. A gravedigger lingers nearby, his back bent, his spade resting in the soil. He glances at you once, his eyes dull, his mouth set in a hard line. To him the graves are not stories, not losses, but labor. Each mound is another day's work, another task completed before the light fades. He spits into the mud and turns away, his boots sinking deep as he trudges off. The wind sharpens, carrying the scent of damp earth, of rot buried shallow. You stand again, your shawl clutched tight, your breath curling white into the cold air. The silence here feels different from the silence of the streets. It is not filled with whispers or laughter or the scrape of boots. It is final, heavy, pressing against your chest until your heart aches. You imagine yourself here, your body lowered in haste, no hymn to carry you, no stone to mark you, only a number scratched on wood, only a patch of earth that will sink and vanish in time. You wonder if anyone would pause at your mound, if anyone would whisper your name before it too was forgotten. The thought lingers sharp as frost, heavier than hunger, heavier than fear. When you leave, the fog swallows the graves quickly, as though they were never there. The crows scatter from the branches, their cries harsh against the grey sky, and the gate closes behind you with a clang. The city waits beyond, restless and loud, but the silence of the grave follows you, reminding you that every step you take is only borrowed until the earth claims its due. The lodging house is louder tonight, though not with laughter. Voices rise and fall in quick bursts, sharp whispers passed from one bed to another. A girl has not returned. No one says her name, but every woman knows who it is. Her corner lies empty, her blanket folded neatly by habit, her shoes still tucked beneath the straw mattress. She is gone, and the silence around her absence grows heavier with each hour. No one asks where she went. Some claim she was taken by fever, others that she fell into the river, others still that a constable carried her away. The stories shift with every mouth, but the end is always the same: she will not return. In time, another will claim her space, another girl carrying her own hunger, her own debts, her own silence. The city leaves no room for mourning. You sit on your bed, your shawl wrapped close, listening as the whispers ripple through the room. One woman sighs, crossing herself before turning away to sleep. Another mutters that it is better not to remember, that names only weigh heavier when they vanish. She pulls her blanket over her head, shutting out the world, shutting out the loss. Around you the others follow, their voices dwindling, their silence growing thicker than the fog outside. You close your eyes, but the empty bed lingers in your mind. You picture the girl's face, faint, already blurring at the edges as memory fades. You try to recall the sound of her voice, the way she laughed or coughed, the stories she once told. But the harder you reach, the less you find. It is as though the city itself has already begun to erase her, sweeping her away like soot washed into the gutters by rain. Later, you hear the keeper of the house enter. Her shoes strike the floorboards, her eyes sweeping across the room. She pauses at the empty bed, but only for a breath. Her ledger opens, her quill scratches, and the name is crossed out. One line gone, one space cleared, one debt no longer owed. Then she leaves, her footsteps fading into the hall, and the silence that follows is louder than any shout. You stare at the empty space until your eyes blur. The bed looks no different from the others, same straw, same blanket, same corner of damp wall. Yet it carries the weight of everything she was, and everything that will never be spoken again. Tomorrow the bed will be filled, the blanket pulled tight, the whispers moving on to another name. And the girl who once lay there will dissolve into the fog, remembered by no one but you. As you finally lie down, your body sinking into the straw, you whisper her name once more, though your voice cracks with fatigue. The sound vanishes into the air, thin and fragile, carried away by the draught through the broken window. You know it will not last. In this city, names do not belong to the women who bear them. They are swallowed, forgotten, erased, until nothing remains but silence. Morning arrives grey, the fog lifting only enough to reveal the outlines of the streets. The market stirs again, vendors calling out prices, carriages rattling over stones, men in tall hats striding briskly as though the night left no trace. The city hums with the same noise, the same rhythm, the same unending hunger. No one speaks of the women who did not return, of the names erased from the ledgers, of the graves hidden in corners of the churchyard. London swallows its dead and carries on, relentless. You step into the street, the damp air clinging to your shawl. The lodging house door closes behind you, its hinges squealing, but even that sound is quickly lost in the bustle. You join the crowd, your feet moving with theirs, though your path is not the same. Their pockets jingle with coins, their hands clutch baskets of bread and meat, their bellies full. You carry only the silence of last night, the weight of absence that no one else seems to notice. The shops gleam with goods, silks in windows, gold watches ticking steadily, trays of sugared cakes. Men and women press forward eagerly, their laughter bright, their hands quick with payment. You pause to watch, your stomach twisting, your chest aching, but not one face turns your way. You are invisible here, erased not by shadows but by indifference. To them you do not exist, or if you do, you are only a shape best ignored. At the corner, a preacher shouts, his voice ringing above the clatter. He speaks of sin, of ruin, of women fallen from grace. Passers-by nod solemnly, some casting quick glances your way. Their eyes slide off you quickly, yet you feel their judgment linger heavier than the cold. The preacher's words cut through the air like knives, but the crowd flows on, pausing only long enough to nod before resuming their errands. Even damnation is a passing amusement. You turn down a narrower lane, where the fog curls thicker, the noise dulls, the stones slick with damp. Here, other women stand, their shawls thin, their faces painted, their eyes hollow. They lean against walls, calling softly, their voices drowned by the city's roar. They are the same as you, and yet each one carries her own silence, her own debts, her own story that will end without record. You pass them, your eyes meeting briefly, an unspoken recognition passing between you before you both look away. By nightfall the fog returns, thick and endless, swallowing the lamps until the city feels like nothing but shadow and echo. The laughter of the wealthy spills from clubs and parlours, their lives bright and unbroken, untouched by hunger. The constable's boots strike their rhythm, the inspector's ledgers grow heavier, the brothel curtains close once more. Life continues as though nothing has changed, as though no one has vanished. And you walk among it, one face in the fog, one story among thousands, knowing that when you two are gone, the city will not pause, it will not mourn, it will not remember. It will move on, louder than ever, as though you had never walked its streets at all.